Keenan Allen has some of the most insane looking shoulders that I have ever seen on an athlete. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at the most recent viral video and try to understand what exactly is going on with these insane bumps that we can see on the side of his shoulder. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal in this channel is to teach you more about the medical side of the sports world. Now, I'll admit, it seems like every year some clip of Keenan Allen goes viral because of his just ridiculous looking shoulders. Now, in particular, his right shoulder, but even the left shoulder, we see a similar deformity. It's like his shoulder has a shoulder. But what we're seeing here is the result of an old injury to Allen that's actually a very common injury that we see in the sports world. And I think this picture is actually really helpful because it can show our athletes a very good example of what can be done whenever you have these types of injuries in terms of surgery, non-surgical management, and what the cosmetic outcomes might look like despite still being able to play really well. So what we're looking at here with Allen, of course, is the right shoulder. And specifically, this is going to be the end of the collarbone. So the clavicle is going to be coming about right in this direction. And then the tip of what you're seeing on the side of his skin right there is the distal, meaning this end, tip of the clavicle. See a similar deformity or bulge on his left side, but not nearly to the extent that we're seeing on his right side. And so what this is the result of an AC joint injury or an AC joint separation. Simply put, his shoulder looks this way because of an injury that completely tore some of the ligaments in his shoulder. Next, I want to dive into how these injuries occur and then a real deep dive on the anatomy, how we treat them, how we classify them. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. Today's video is sponsored by AnCollar. AnCollar makes performance dress wear for men. And if you haven't checked them out yet, then what are you doing? I've been wearing AnCollar dress shirts in every single one of my videos that you've seen for the past few years, and hands down, they're the best dress shirts I've ever worn. AnCollar's material makes it feel like you're wearing athletic wear. It's extremely lightweight, it's breathable, it's wrinkle resistant, and it's even stain repellent. These shirts are already extremely affordable, but right now with code Dr10, AnCollar is going to hook you up with an additional 10% off your order. I can also testify to how durable their shirts are. I've owned many of these for a number of years, and after putting them through the wash, through the laundry multiple times, they still hold up just as well for me as they did day one. If you're set on dress shirts, AnCollar also has a lineup of everything you need for your wardrobe, from jackets, pants, socks, polo shirts, and even ties to complete that perfect look. Trust me when I say you are not going to want to wear another dress shirt after you try out AnCollar. So thank you again to AnCollar for being a longtime supporter of this channel. Again, code Dr10 to get 10% off what is hands down, in my opinion, the best men's dress wear that you will ever find. What's interesting in Allen's case is this goes back really far. He's had this appearance to his shoulders for a very long time. This is a video from 6 years ago of an interview after a game where you can see that, again, insane deformity that we're looking at in the the right shoulder specifically of Keenan Allen. We can see that big bump right here. And in this video, we can get a little bit clearer look at the outline, the contours of the bone. So what we're seeing right there, that contour is going to be the mid portion of his clavicle, and then the clavicle is going to come all the way out, and then this flat edge is going to be the outer end of his collarbone. The AC joint is the joint between that acromion, the tip of the shoulder blade, and the end of the collarbone. The SC joint, the sternoclavicular joint, is going to sit more over here where the clavicle meets the sternum. So if we trace out the entirety of his clavicle, it's going to be right about there. He's also, of course, going to have one on the other side, and we can again see a little bit of that increased contour, that bump on his left side. And so that's what we're observing underneath the skin. Looking at our biodigital anatomy tool to see exactly what those bones look like, here we're going to be looking straight on at the right shoulder. Here, of course, we see the clavicle, similar to what we were talking about with Allen. And then this is going to be the acromion. The acromion is this tip of the shoulder blade, or part of the scapula. That connection between the distal end of the clavicle and the tip of the shoulder blade, the acromion, this right here is going to be your AC joint. A, acromion, C, clavicle, so it's the acromioclavicular joint. The main ball and socket joint of the shoulder is going to be sitting right here between the humeral head and the glenoid. Whenever you hear of an athlete separating their shoulder or spraining their shoulder, typically that's what we're referring to as an injury to this joint right here. This joint has cartilage in it. It can develop arthritis similar to any other joint, but of course the stabilizing ligaments can get injured as well, and that's the different severities of an AC joint injury. Now, how does an AC joint injury occur? Well, an AC joint injury occurs whenever typically somebody lands on the outside of their shoulder. So you land on the outside of your shoulder, all the force comes in this direction, gets transferred through that joint, disrupts the ligaments, and leads to the injury. We see it when a hockey player gets checked into the boards. Most often for a wide receiver or player in the NFL, it's going to be whenever they land on the side of their shoulder. If we dive deeper into the anatomy of what structures are injured here, the AC ligaments are going to run between the acromion and the clavicle. So there's going to be a bundle of ligaments right there. The coracoclavicular ligaments are going to be running between the coracoid process, which is this protrusion on the other part of the scapula, and the clavicle. There's specifically going to be a couple of them right here. Just think of them as one group, the CC ligaments. So you have the AC ligaments, you have the CC ligaments, and we classify the severity of an AC joint injury based on which of those groups of ligaments are injured and to what extent. This, just while we're at it, is an x-ray view of what all this looks like. So we've seen the graphic of the anatomy. Here's the x-ray where, again, this is going to be that AC interval. This is going to be the CC interval with those ligaments. And so what we're looking at to help make the diagnosis we'll come back to here on the x-ray. We classify these types of injuries by something called the Rockwood classification system. And you'll hear a doctor say type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rather than a grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. In the media, you'll still hear him say grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, but the proper way to classify them is with this Rockwood classification, type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then ultimately 6. I will admit, never personally have seen a type 6. This is like major car accident, traumatic types of injuries, not typically something you're going to see on the sports field. The most common ones you're going to see are going to be the type 1, the type 2, the type 3, and then the type 5. Essentially, as you get through increasing levels of trauma to those AC ligaments and to the CC ligaments, you get more displacement of the collarbone because of disruption of those ligaments, leading to a more severe type of injury pattern. A type 1, the most common type of very mild AC sprain, is going to be just a little bit of spraining of those ligaments between the acromion and the clavicle, but there's no widening, there's no real separation. A type 2, you're then going to see more significant tearing of that AC ligament where we're going to see some widening. When we get into a type 3, we've now seen disruption of that CC interval, so where the clavicle is connected down to the coracoid process. And then as you get to a type 5, there's going to be just more displacement of that clavicle further up. The difference between a type 3 and a type 5 comes down to that amount of displacement that we see in that region on the x-ray. And so if we're coming back to our x-ray here, essentially we compare it to the other side and we measure what this distance is compared to the contralateral or the opposite side. If this distance is more than 100% the distance on the other side, so twice as much, that would be considered a type 5 AC joint injury. If it's less than 100%, we would consider it a type 3. Your type 1 and type 2s are going to be non-surgically managed. Your type 3, often we attempt non-surgical management for at least a 6-week period or so. Additionally, type 5s, we also usually will try and attempt non-surgical management, but it gets a little bit more into the surgical side. Type 4s, type 6s, you're going to be managed with surgery. So if we go back now to this video of Keenan Allen from the past weekend, we can get a better sense of what severity of AC joint injury he had. The severe amount of elevation that we're seeing in the tip of his clavicle tells me that this was probably either initially a type 3 and then became a type 5, or was a type 5 from the start. His clavicle is elevated that high up because he's likely had complete tearing of the CC ligaments, complete tearing of the AC ligaments, which has caused his clavicle to rise up and give it this deformity, this appearance. The crazy thing about this, though, is like I said, you don't always have to have surgery for these. Oftentimes it does come down to the cosmetic appearance if the athlete is able to function. So there's nothing dangerous about his shoulder being like this, other than if he were to have another injury, you could theoretically bump it up more into that type 4, type 6, but in and of itself, if he's not having pain, if he's not having severe symptoms, and the cosmetics are okay with him, this is okay to play with. We've had plenty of athletes I've taken care of that have played with these types of injuries. A lot of them end up having surgery because they just cosmetically don't want to see this the rest of their life. But for Allen, he clearly chose to not be worried about it, and this is just what his shoulders appear to be. Probably had something similar on the other side. There was probably a type 3. We just don't see as much of that elevation, and that's why the left side looks elevated, but the right side is significantly more. So that's exactly what we're seeing. Essentially, there's no stable connection from the original ligaments between the tip of his clavicle and the acromion on the shoulder blade. There's probably been scarring that's happened there, so there's probably some connection. It's just very stretched, very loose, giving him this very insane, just wild appearance. So that's it for the video, everybody. Next time you see one of these videos trending of Keenan Allen's shoulders, now hopefully you'll have a better idea of what exactly is happening, the type of AC injuries, how we classify them, the severity, and typically what we're going to do to manage them. Thank you as always for watching. Let me know any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.